Well, Republican candidates are in Iowa today for the party's first caucus ahead of the presidential election later on this year. Former President Donald Trump is still leading the polls against his opponents Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, with the support of more than 70% of Republican-aligned voters. Joining me live is former White House Chief of Staff and now Bondi Partners consultant Mick Mulvaney. Mick, thank you for your time today. The caucuses are viewed as somewhat as the first snapshot of voters' support for presidential candidates. Why is Iowa so important? Can you just break that down for our audience?
Sure. It's a tradition that goes back more than a century. It's a very, very small state, and they have some very unique traditions there about how they pick their presidential nominees. This is not a primary. It's a caucus, which might be a uniquely American thing, but it's rare even in our country, which is people do not go into voting booths tonight or during the day and pull a lever. They're on their way right now to go to their local gymnasiums, the schools, the churches, sometimes even other people's houses, to sit around and talk with their neighbors about who they think the next presidential nominee should be for the Republican Party. That'll take several hours. At the end of this discussion, this caucus, they will each then be given a piece of paper and they'll write the name of their preferred candidate on it, and then that will be the tally. But during this, the next couple of hours, people will be sitting across tables from their friends who are saying, look, I know you're voting for so-and-so, but you need to vote for so-and-so. You're supporting Hayley, but you should be supporting DeSantis. You're supporting Ramaswamy. You should be supporting Trump. There's that type of discussion. It's not very private. It's actually quite public. It's a uniquely American thing. We've done it for a long, long time, and it's one of the highlights of our every four-year process.
It's all about to kick off. I mean, Donald Trump is in the clear lead here. Do you think Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis will come even close to his performance in the caucus?
No. In fact, what we're watching is everybody pretty much assumes that Donald Trump is going to win. The question is by what threshold? There's a 50% level that's sort of a magic number, because if he gets above 50%, that means even if you took all of the other votes and put them together, he'd still win, right? And that's what he really, really wants to show tonight. If he wins by winning, say, 42%, that shows a little bit of weakness on his part, because that does mean that he could be beaten in theory. So he's really looking tonight. He's been working very hard. He's been in Iowa a good bit, spent a good bit of money trying to make sure that what happened to him in 2016 doesn't happen again. He was leading in 2016 going into the caucuses and lost to Ted Cruz. So he's trying to make sure that doesn't happen again. But if he gets over 50%, that'd be a huge win tonight for Donald Trump.
And Mick, what about the winter frost there at the moment, plunging below temperatures of negative 20 degrees Celsius? This could threaten the voter turnout a little bit, right?
Yeah, I was trying to do the math in my head, because I can do Celsius to Fahrenheit when it's positive, but it's going to be negative 30 to 35 below zero Fahrenheit. That's probably 300 or 400 degrees negative centigrade. I have no idea. It's really, really cold. They were showing today, some newspaper reporters I work with took a pot of boiling water, threw it in the air, and it was frozen before it hit the ground. So it's outrageously cold, and it may depress turnout tonight. What we're going to find out tonight is which candidates had really strong support. You might like somebody, but are you going to go out on a night like tonight? That's going to be a real test. So the winner tonight is going to not only be, probably be Donald Trump, it'll be a question of how enthusiastic their supporters were.
And of course, we heard Donald Trump before previously saying, voters, come out, brave the cold for me, I'm worth it. What about when it comes to the primaries later on? How do you think that's going to play out?
Yeah, I think Trump actually said, even if you die, it'll be worth it. By the way, I'm not making that up. He actually said that. So what happens next is you go on to New Hampshire. If Nikki Haley finishes second tonight, Ron DeSantis' campaign is probably over. If Ron finishes second, he'll continue on. And they'll go to New Hampshire, where Trump has a small lead over Nikki Haley. Keeping in mind, New Hampshire in our system, also unique in its own way. Non-Republicans are allowed to vote in the Republican primaries there in New Hampshire, which is why you might see a little bit different result there than you would say tonight in Iowa. A much closer race in New Hampshire than there will be in Iowa.
Mick Mulvaney, the perfect person to talk to this about. Thank you for your time today. Take care.
Thanks so much.